This is a really important topic too. All right, good morning. So we're live everywhere. Good morning, good morning. As you are coming in, share what your questions are on how to handle no's in sales, in life. I want to share with you an experience that I had recently that felt very disappointing at the time, but that was such a beautiful reminder that we don't always get yeses to what we think we want, and that's okay. That's totally okay. So if you're coming in on Facebook or LinkedIn, pop a comment in so I can see you're here, and then on Instagram too. So I had this experience recently that felt like a really big disappointment. And I'll give you a little bit of context. So I was introduced through a client to potentially be a guest on this like big podcast. Y'all know your girl was so excited. I was like, yes, it's happening. Like all the hard work is paying off. Here we go. This is my big moment. And I was so excited for this moment. So I get introduced to this podcaster's manager, and we get on an intro call, and the manager is like, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm sorry if there was a miscommunication. This guy who hosts this podcast he's not actually currently taking any new guests, but we got connected by a mutual friend, and I just thought it would be good to meet you. And so in that moment, my heart sank. And it was like, I was trying to keep it together because I never want anyone to feel like used for something. And that was like my worst fear was this particular booking manager was going to feel like, oh, I only wanted to meet you so I could go on this guy's podcast. So my instinct was like, let me keep it together here. And so I breathed and was like, no problem at all. I'm so excited just to get to know you and to connect and hear more about what's going on in your life. And so as we spoke, it turned out that this person who was helping this podcaster, that she was actually looking for some new opportunities. And I was able to connect her with some people I knew who would be possibly good clients for her. And so what I learned in that moment was it's not always about me. I know, it's shocking, right? It's not always about me. And I believe that we are all connected. We are all connected. And what I do to you, I do back to me, and vice versa. And so when we make that shift, that mindset shift, and we realize that, especially in sales, right? Because it's so about just like the get. How are you going to get your next client, your next customer, your next money? That's not how it works. If you're only about that and you're not about giving back, helping other people, realizing that other people have plenty of stuff they're dealing with too. And maybe you're meant to help someone with something to open a door for something else to come through for you. That's how it works. But when we are just in that mindset of it's all about me, we cut off our power and we cut off the joy and the pleasure that we can experience in life. So what I have learned, and I learned this through this experience, and I'll share another experience that really drove this home for me, was it's never a rejection. It's simply redirection. That is it. No is not rejection. It's redirection. And I'll tell you another place where I learned this. And just as you guys are coming in, I'm so glad you're here. Pop a comment below, especially if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, so I can see that you're here. But another time when I learned this in my life was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I was actually less than that. It was probably 3 years. But I was a partner in this big sales coaching organization, and I was one of the top producers. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you? And so we're talking about how to handle no's in sales and business and life today. And who's here? Oh, Huck, I love it. Yes, learn this and hear it often in church. Yes, exactly. So, I was rocking and rolling in this position, and I remember it was like beginning of the year. I don't remember what year it was, 2018, something like that. And I was used to being a top sales producer, and suddenly it was like the faucet shut off, and it did not matter what I did. I analyzed every single part of my sales pitch. I analyzed every single thing I did. I started a spreadsheet. I was like tracking everything. I was like, what is up? Like, it was like I could not be worse at selling if I tried. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, come to find out, hey, Chris, I'm so glad you're here. We're talking about how to handle no's. So come to find out, a couple months after that, there was something very unexpected that happened at the company where I had a very sudden exit. And with hindsight, what I can see now is if I had continued to sell aggressively during that time, there would have been so many more clients who were left like, kind of feeling stranded when I left and couldn't communicate. So what I learned through that process was sometimes, and especially if the faucet shuts off, and it's like you're doing everything you know how to do and it's just not working, you are being redirected to something else. And it was actually such a blessing with hindsight that I didn't sell more during that time. And it wasn't actually anything about what I was doing. It's just I was being kind of prepared for this next phase and next chapter that was happening in a few months, but I just couldn't see it. So when we have that mindset of it's not rejection, it's just redirection, what we can do is open our minds up to say, what am I being invited to do differently right now? And am I being invited to shift my approach? Am I being invited to reach out to a different customer? Am I being invited to, sometimes it's like in your business, everything shuts off and it doesn't matter what you're doing, it doesn't work. That happened for a lot of people last year, right? And I look at it as you're being redirected. There's always something better for you. You have to have the mindset, everything is always working for me. It's always working for me. So when you think about it and you evaluate that thing that feels like a big no in your life through the lens of, okay, this is actually happening for me, you open your mind up to what's next. What am I being invited to do that's next? And the other thing we have to know is if you're working, like let's say you're working with a prospect and you're like, this is my dream client. Like maybe they're ready to pay you more than you've ever been paid before for your services. They want to book your highest ticket item. And you're like, oh, this is going to be a slam dunk. It's going to be so easy. And then for whatever reason, they don't close, right? We've all had those and that feels really painful in the moment. But all that means is that energetically you're ready for that. And they're opening the door for the perfect client who's actually even better than them to come through. Your only job, again, I talk a lot about you can be attached to the what, but not the how. You don't get to be attached to who buys from you and who doesn't. Your only job in that moment is to get excited and realize, oh, this means because I got so close with this person, this one prospect who I was so confident they were going to buy, and it didn't happen. They were energetically opening the door for someone else to come through that's going to be super ideal. And I was coaching, oh, hey, Elizabeth, I'm so glad you're here. Hey, Timothy. Pop your questions in the chat, by the way, about like, what are your questions on handling no's, handling rejection? I was coaching a client a few weeks ago and she was actually hiring someone and she thought she had like the perfect team member ready to go. And she was like, this is brilliant. This is exactly what I've been looking for. It was easy. It felt exactly like I hoped it would. And then this potential team member decided to go in another direction. And she was crestfallen. And so when we had this conversation about all that means is that there's the perfect team member for you who's coming at the perfect time. Your only job is to stay in that energy of like, I'm really clear on the attributes of this team member now. Having this conversation with this prospect like warmed me up to it. I'm even clearer. I'm getting closer. You're getting closer. So it's that energy and that excitement and releasing the attachment to who becomes your customer and who becomes your team members. It's going to happen perfectly and better than you could have ever imagined if you just let it. If you don't get so grippy and attached to, it has to be this person, because it doesn't. God, the universe have way better plans for you than you could have imagined with this. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about this work I do supporting women in sales, because I remember, especially when I was in corporate sales, I was taught like, push past the no and keep pushing and everyone needs to buy from me all the time. And that's a very masculine way of operating. And not that there's not some truth to that, right? I really believe like you have to get quite a few no's before you get to your yes. But I took that to mean when someone told me no, I had to keep coming back and I had to keep pushing and and it turned into this like very apologetic, like I'm less than you type of energy. I don't know if you guys can relate to this. And it was almost, I felt like I was begging. And so masculine energy is like push, pursue. It's aggressive. It's the hunter energy, right? And that's how the men that I work with and adore, like that's how they're wired. And so that works really well for them, for a lot of them. For women, though, it's different. We're not wired that way. We're actually wired to kind of sit back and receive. And it's not that you don't take action. Okay, so I want to be really clear on this. You have to take action, whether you're, however you identify, woman, man, whatever, I don't care. You have to take the action, but it's different. It's different. Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm glad this speaks to you. Hey, Melissa, I'm so glad you're here. Hey, Omar, how are you? Put your questions below about how do you handle no's. If you're struggling with, maybe you feel like you got rejected by a customer, a potential opportunity, or just anything in your life. Like, I really want to help kind of shift this mindset of we have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So when I used to do that again, it just was like, it felt bad. It felt bad to me. And I felt like I was like begging people and people would ghost me. And, you know, I'm at a point now where I don't, like, if somebody doesn't want to work with me, I don't push it. Like, my only job is to invite the people I feel called to invite to what I'm doing. And some of them are going to want it. Some of them aren't. I don't really care. Not that I don't want the best for any of them, right? So if I reach out to you and say, hey, I've got this thing going on and I wanted to talk with you about it, it's because I genuinely think it would be good for you, but it's not my business if you choose to say yes or not. It's your business. And if I think it's a really good fit for you and I genuinely want to work with you, I'll probably follow up, you know, when it feels right. Like, I will follow up down the road, but I'm not going to push and I'm not going to lower myself to try to work with someone. And that's total scarcity mindset. It is total scarcity and lack mindset, which is so prevalent in the world of sales and business. And I want to just invite us all to open up our eyes to the global opportunities there are. And not only how much money there is for you to make and how many customers, there are more customers for you to work with than you could ever work with in this entire lifetime. There are more opportunities for you than you could ever handle in this entire lifetime. Your only job is to just get excited about what that's like, to really show up, to really be of service, and just offer what you have. That's it. That is it. That's all you have to do. Show up and serve and help people. And the other thing I just feel very present to today is it's not about the money. Like, we have to remember that it's not about the money. There are people who are hurting, who need what you have. You know, one of my friends this morning on LinkedIn, or yesterday, he did a post about like canceling 2 meetings with people because their mental health wasn't in a good state. And I thought, like, how often do we just forget that people are hurting? How often do we just forget that people are struggling, right? With like death and loss and fear and scarcity. And I get to be present to it behind the scenes in these conversations with these beautiful women I get to coach and support, where it's like they all on the outside look like they have it all together, right? Because we think that's what we have to do. We think we have to have it all together to get customers and to get likes and followers. And then behind the scenes, they're struggling with things that I struggle with sometimes too, right? Like, they're struggling with scarcity mindset. They're struggling with lack of self-confidence. They're struggling with things going on in their family. And we forget that it's just really about people at the end of the day. Like, that's all it is. So I think the more we can be present to how interconnected we all are, and to how everything in your business or in your sales is really just about how you're meant to show up and help other people right now. And remembering that those people are not dollar signs. They're people with families, with lives, with health concerns, with all of that. Like, we got to get away from just making it so transactional. So this went in a totally different direction than I planned on, but it's so important, and it's what's showing up for me today. So I trust it. So just remember, like, you are always being supported. You are being lovingly supported by whatever your version of your higher power is. And if you go for something full steam and it's just not happening for you, look up and open your eyes and your mind to what else could there be for you, because the only thing it means is there's something better for you. That's all it means. There's something better. Okay. That's it. Mallory's saying yes. Yeah, this is what it's actually about, guys. So I'm done. I love you. DM me if you want support or you have questions on this. I feel so much love for each of you today, and I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to share this message with you. So yeah, that's it. DM me. I'll share this because it's what showed up. I'm hosting a masterclass at the end of this month. I'd love to invite you to. It's about like kind of this perspective on sales and business and how can you achieve your goals, but in a way that actually feels really good and is helpful to you and the people you're serving and is spiritually aligned. So send me a DM if you're curious about that. But Huck is saying rejection is God's protection. I love that, Huck. Yeah, it's like we don't have to make it so hard. We don't have to make it so hard. And sometimes we do. Sometimes I do. We all do, right? But just remember, like, it's an abundant universe. There's more than enough money, clients, opportunities for you. And if something's not happening, it just means there's something better. Okay, that's all it means. So I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much to everyone who joined live. If you're watching the replay, thank you. I love you. I'll see you guys soon, okay?